Take 3. No, this is an anime review, series review for The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. Now, this story obviously revolves around a high school student who goes to North High named Haruhi Suzumiya, and a hapless little schmuck that she drags along her misadventures named Kion. They are literally almost bound by fate at the beginning of the series. Because, well, Haruhi and Kion end up staying behind each other at the beginning of episode 1, and when they have to draw desks, just so happens those two get basically seat buddies still. Boy, talk about a sick twist of fate, huh? Oh, but it gets better. You see, Haruhi is a very interesting girl. She specifically only wants to deal with people who are interesting. If you're an Esper, a time traveler, or an alien, she wants to associate with you. And thus begins a very interesting tale. Now this is on episode 1. Well, what we come to find out is she, after getting basically seated behind Kion, isn't that fun? She decides she wants to start her own club in the school. And the name of it would be a brigade, specifically called the SOS Brigade. Well, to do that, you need 5 members. Luckily for them, one person who pretty much just didn't give a shit, named Yuki Nagano, would be in the literary room, which would become the room that would be used for the brigade. But they still needed 2 other members. Well, what we come to find out is Yuki Nagano is a data entity. Essentially, let's call it this way, she's an alien. Well, that's one of the people that Miss Suzumiya wanted to meet. Well, we're still missing 2. Next up, you would end up meeting Mikado Asahina, a time traveler who has a very interesting quirk about her. She will tell you just about anything you want, but if there's something that she feels you can't know, instead of saying, I can't tell you, she'll just go, classified information. This wouldn't be a problem, except one thing I've always learned about telling stories in anime. In most cases, I need a beginning, a middle, and an end. If I have all those, I'm good. Well, one thing that season 1 is going to revolve around, and this is especially true when it's explained through the meeting between Yuki and Kion, is that an incident happened 3 years prior. Okay. You'd probably like to get the information of what the incident is, but here's the thing. It's not explained through the series. Now, before I get anybody leaving a comment and saying, well, they explained it in one of the specials, dude. Okay. Fair is fair. But, try this. The Sailor Moon series had 200 episodes. Okay? 200. And the very first episode, you got Tsukimi Usagi getting her powers. And eventually in the series it starts flesh out the story. Okay? Hell, even in the Pretty Guardian series, which was 49 episodes, they managed to tell you everything that you need to know. That's a problem. Because this series is technically only 26 episodes long. Well, maybe it's more. Maybe 25. And they mentioned the incident from 3 years ago. Okay. What incident? Well, this would be nice if it fixed. Husky could bring up the situation. He doesn't. He's the Esper. Here's what he mentions. He and Asahina, by the way, if I pronounced it wrong, my apologies. Mentioned that he and Miss Asahina belong to an agency. Okay. And your sole goal is to monitor Miss Suzumiya. Okay. Because she is a god. Okay. How she becomes said god. This is not explained again in the first season. It's nowhere explained in season 2, by the way. Of the 2 seasons, season 1 is actually the better of the 2. Because while yes, it's mainly all the misadventures of the group, it does enough to have comedy, just plain hilarity, and even some drama and suspense. Season 2 deals with 2 arcs. One is called Nameless 8, which, by the way, if you can survive watching the same episode 8 times, congratulations, because most of us that watch it on YouTube or even through watching the DVDs will probably want to put a bullet through our head. And then, of course, there was what's called the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. Well, that is an arc that deals with Haruhi wanting to make a movie. Okay. I got no issue with that. But what's funny is at no point during any of this, again, is the 3-year incident explained. Now you can say, well, they're gonna wait for a movie, or they're gonna do, it was explained in a special. But again, that's a cop out, a strict cop out. Because you're now leaving a plot hole about this big. Okay? Someone will say, well, what would you have done? Okay? Episode 1. Show the incident of 3 years ago. And then have the screen just basically go away and then fast forward to... This is after they show the incident. Then 3 years later, when everybody, you know, or maybe have an episode, or maybe have it where, you know, after the incident, you have people start going, what's happened, and all this. And people could say, well, the incident did happen during Endless 8's. Well, sorry, I was too busy reading the comments, busting up laughing because people were getting pissed off because the same episode was being recycled over and over again. Which, by the way, was probably the funniest thing about watching on YouTube. So, and that was season 2. Season 1, the episode that probably drove people crazy was the last episode where there's like 3 minutes and change of dead air. No, literally. There's a part where the camera's focused in what become the brigade room, and you see Yuki reading, and she's reading, and she's reading, and the whole time you're looking at the clock going, does this actually go somewhere? And eventually, so it finally happens, you're like, thank you! Here's going to be a, by the way, here's a counter to also the people that get pissed off because people were getting pissed off about the fact that the Endless 8 saga was going on. Okay? They say they were trying to flesh out, I think, Yuki for the movie. Okay. Here would be my problem. At least, and I'm going to use the Sailor Moon comparison. At least when the Sailor Moon series had to basically, we'll call it buy time. They had another saga to do, so they did that, and then they went into the next level of the main villains. So we do a side story. Like they did the Ailens saga, and then they did the Dark Moon for our season, best season of the series. For season 5, they did the Helena saga, and then they did the whole thing with Sailor Galaxia and her animates. So it made sense. How the hell do you do an 8-episode thing where it's just the same episode looped? I mean, it's almost like you'd be getting trolled by the creators. Actually, I think somebody wrote that in the comments, like, we're getting trolled by the creators of the series. Yeah, you are! Anyway. Despite that flaw, and despite the fact that there's that little problem with the 3-year incident being talked about, but never really explained. Oh yeah, and the fact that Haru is oblivious to the fact that she's a god, allegedly. But she doesn't realize it. I think she would even realize that, trust me, if I said I was going to wish for something and it happened, I think I would realize that I did it. I wouldn't be this massively oblivious girl. Or in my case, guy. Anyway, well, I will say this, and I don't know if it's the English dubbing, the way it was translated, but do we have to turn Kion as some guy who's never been late in his life? Because every time he sees Miss Asahina, I swear to God, he's pitching a tent. And it drives me absolutely crazy. I will say also in season 1 there was at least one attempt on his life, which was odd. That was kind of a random event that they threw in there, but it was actually kind of cool at the same time. And the open space incidents that happened. So now I gotta give this thing a grade. Real quick. On a scale of 1 to 10, we'll give it about a 7. Actually, no, I'll be nice, an 8. Because actually it wasn't that bad, but it wasn't perfect. Anyways, you all have a good night. I will talk to you at some point down the line. Later, gang.